It's happening. I thought about starting Guess Who's Back, 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 back again, again, again. But the thing is that a lot of you didn't probably know that I came back. So in 2020, I started recording no matter what. I started it right before the pandemic. And then, of course, COVID hit and all of our lives were significantly altered. And this podcast was a lifeline for me. The interviews that I got to record and then listening to them afterwards as I would edit them and put them online for you guys to listen to, they were food for my soul. The community that was created, it was just the most special thing. And then at the end of that year, I got very, very sick as I was pregnant with my third child, my one and only girl. And the old wives' tale or whatever they say, like a girl pregnancy was 90,000 times worse for me than my first two boys. But I was just so sick. I couldn't keep doing it. I had to really consider the things that had to get done in my life at that time and then say no to literally everything else. So, unfortunately, no matter what got shut down. And then I totally thought I would pick it back up again after I got my feet on the ground and had another baby. And one thing led to another. I ended up going to seminary and writing a book. And long story short, there just really hadn't been a right season for me to start this up, but we're doing it. I still don't know, honestly, if this is the right season, but we are doing it. And y'all, I really could not be more excited. Today's guest is the one and only Christy Nockels. I have been a massive fan of Christy for years and years. I fangirl all over her when we start this episode, but y'all are going to love the things that we talk about. We talk about purpose and calling and connecting with the Lord and approaching hardships and seasons instead of asking like, why God, or being bitter or angry, and instead considering what his invitation might be for us. She said multiple things that you'll hear me. I say, I'm going to put that in my back pocket, meaning I am going to keep that on me. I'm going to keep chewing on it and thinking about it. And I'm probably going to bring it back up again in future conversations with other people. This episode blessed me so much. I hope you love it. And the last thing I need to ask you before we jump in is just go ahead. Would you subscribe, rate, review, comment, share, do all the things that you know that matter for brand new, baby, freshly launching podcasts such as this? If you love it, I know your friends will love it too. And it just would mean the world to me if you helped get the word out. So without further ado, here is Christy Nockels. Okay, I have to fangirl a little bit for you, and then we'll have a professional conversation.
Yeah.
But I started listening to Watermark in high school. I mean, literally, like y'all formed Watermark right when I was in high school. So your Watermark music kind of carried me through high school and college.
Wow.
And then, of course, you started doing, music under your name, Christy Nockels. And then fast forward to I guess 8 years ago now, you released Be Held, which was your first lullaby album. We're going to talk about this new one that just came out. But I was pregnant with my firstborn when that song released. I was very pregnant when Be Held, when Be Held came out. And I would go on walks throughout my parents' neighborhood. We were living with my parents at the time because we were in transition with our own housing. And I would go on walks and I would just listen to Be Held. And, it was so funny because I'm like, oh, this is going to be a sweet lullaby album that we'll, play for our baby. And then it ends up, I'm on these walks and I'm just letting these lullabies be poured over me.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I'm praying them over this baby in my womb. But I mean, all three of our kids were born only listening to Be Held. I'm not kidding. It's the only album that my husband and I, was the White Noise Machine or Be Held was playing for, the 3-4 days we were in the hospital each time I had a baby. And my kids freaked out last night. I guess I was just catching up with my husband and I was like, oh, I get to talk to Christy Nockels tomorrow. And my firstborn, who's 8 years old, or almost 8, was like, Christy Nockels, she's coming here? And I was like, no, she's not coming here. I'm just talking to her over the computer. And then even my 4-year-old was like, Christy Nockels? So they were freaking out. You're a big time, celebrity in our house because we listen to those lullaby albums. So
sweet.
All of that. So thank you for letting me just gush over you and your music. But truly, I it feels full circle. And then I'm like, man, your early years music was kind of the anthem of my high school and college. And now, the music today is anthems for my family, for me as a mom and these little tiny souls that I'm raising. So,
Yeah, love it. Thank you for telling me that.
yes, of course. So, I do want to talk about King Who Never Sleeps, which is your
Yes.
new lullaby album. And we were so excited. I guess it was early, maybe it was this spring. We ran into a mutual friend of ours, Emily Weeks, who we talked about offline.
Yeah.
And she told me, she was like, she's coming out with another lullaby album. We're like, yes. Well, before we dive into that, I want to hear from you, as a woman who desires to follow the Lord and desires to obey his callings on your life, and you want to be using the giftings that he's given
Oh,
you. How have you prioritized? And I mean, over decades of your life, like, how have you made decisions and prioritized which things to do in the moment? I mean, of course, you're a wife and a mom, you're a worship leader, you're a songwriter, you're an artist, you're an author, you're a podcaster.
oh,
I'm probably missing things in there. I mean, you wear a lot of hats, you do a lot of
oh.
things. So I'd love just to hear from you kind of in your wisdom over the years, like, how have you figured out, okay, Lord, you're calling me to do all of these things, what
Yeah,
am I supposed to prioritize now? How do I make decisions today? And how do I make sure I'm being obedient to the callings that you've placed on my life?
yeah, totally. Yeah, oh my goodness. Well, part of what I feel like is just like my life's message is um that God called me to a place of rest when I was right in the midst of like the kind of the height of my like the my career had like kind of reached this pinnacle, like our fourth record of watermark. We were also leading for passion conferences at that time, but I started having babies. And, he so lovingly let me hit a wall. And I always tell people when they've hit a wall of exhaustion, especially as moms, I get excited because I do feel like that is the Lord. He's like
Mm,
intersecting and he is causing us to come to this place of like, okay, what is supposed to be the one thing, right? And in that season, he was so merciful in honestly letting me just not miss it totally
mm,
with my kids and my
uh,
family and my relationship with him, because at that time we were just touring. We were, the kids were in tow and we were going so, just hard and like just, it was just a season of like, and it was unsustainable. Right. And
mm,
so thank the Lord, he brought me to a place where, I wrote a book about that season, The Life You Long For, Learning to Live from a Heart of Rest. But in that season, really what the Lord showed me, it was kind of like a bullseye and concentric circles, like a target sign. And I'll never forget, it was through just sitting down. I was in Psalm 37 one morning because I was just like, Lord, you know, I knew in that season he was trying to get a hold of me. I knew he was in, my kitchen that morning, honestly.
mm,
Like, and it was like, I just let the word of God just fall open in front of me. And he brought me back to actually how I was saved as a 7-year old, just on 37, which is so sweet. Like, just kind of bringing me back to that gospel
mm,
moment and bringing me back, honestly, to like gospel living. Right.
mm.
And so I think the one thing that he was bringing me back to that day is like, do you trust me? Number one,
Yeah.
do you trust me to be your your righteousness, or are you trusting in all these things you're trying to do for me? And if you keep doing that, you're gonna you're gonna miss these kids' lives that I've given you. And so it's just this like, Christy, if you'll just hit the bullseye with me, then
Mm,
I'll take care of all the outer rings of your life and I
mm,
will show up in them. I'll do it. Like, he who calls you is faithful and he will do it. And
yeah.
so he was calling me to that bullseye, to this place of, living from such rest that it's like, it's sort of that Ephesians 2:10, like he's already planned things in advance for us to walk in. And we're his workmanship. And like, if we trust him, these things have been created. We're created in Christ Jesus to do these good things that he's already planned in advance for us. And rather than striving and, hustling even to find what those things are, it's like getting close to him to go, Father, what have you planned in advance for me today? So I know that was a lot to get down to that, what
No.
that bullseye
Yes.
is.
Yes.
And just I think as I've even understood more and more, it's like if I ever wrote a second book, it would be like, oh, the bullseye is his presence. And
Mm,
his presence is his actual plan for us.
yes.
And learning to just walk with him in the mundane,
Yes.
experience his heart, and then it's like, yeah, there's things that we've got to do. I mean, there's things we've all got to do. We can't just sit around and rest all day and, you know, lay around and read the Bible, which that would be amazing. But it's like, okay, you can live and make decisions from this place of trusting a sovereign God who has gifted you and has given you, he's planned things in advance, but it just really is learning to make all those decisions from this place of just
Mm,
rest and trust and allowing him to show up for us rather than us just showing up for ourselves all the time.
yeah.
And there's so much more that beauty that
No,
comes out of that, but
no, I love that. I think something I think about a lot is how, God's greatest desire is to dwell with his people.
yeah,
And I mean, we see that obviously from day one in the garden.
yeah,
He makes
totally.
man and woman to dwell with him. And of course, the way he dwells with mankind changes over the
Oh,
centuries. He leads them, as a cloud by day and fire by
yeah,
night. He tabernacles with them in the
yeah,
temple, Holy
totally.
of Holies, eventually Jesus, and of course we know the ultimate is that we're gonna fully
Yeah,
dwell with him, no veil, face to face. I'll cry if I talk about that for too long. It
yeah,
just overwhelms me.
totally.
Um, and so then when I think about that, it's like, okay, Lord, I'm not Eve, and you did not put me in a garden to dwell with me, but you created me as a woman. I was born in 1984, and then today you've placed me in Franklin, Tennessee,
Yep,
and you've given me a husband, and you've given me 3 children, and I have these part-time jobs, and you've given me these certain giftings, but like this is it. This is the soil he's given me.
that's right.
I love your glorious and the mundane. I love that title for your podcast. I'm like, yes, like
Yeah,
our everyday lives is the soil he's given us to dwell with us, fellowship with us, to grow us. And
that's
I
right.
was just talking with a friend about, I'm like, you know, the Lord is with you. I'll never forget. I was potty training, I think my second born, and of course there's pee on the hardwood floor, and I'm so tired. It's like, if I'm remembering correctly, this was the one he was harder to train out of my 3. And so it's like day 3 and I'm just so
Totally.
fatigued. I'm like, is
Yeah.
this what are we doing? And I'm literally cleaning pee off of the hardwood, and I just start to cry. And I remember this overwhelming feeling and moment, and not audibly hearing the Lord, but like in my soul hearing the Lord say, I'm here with you right now, and
Yeah,
you are doing the work that
that's
I've
right.
asked you to do.
Yeah,
And that moment, I guess particularly in motherhood, really changed everything for me, because it made me realize, like, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. We know this, to quote the apostle Paul, whether we're eating or drinking, we can do it unto
yeah,
the glory of the Lord.
that's right.
Um but it's holy work.
Yeah,
The There's glorious in the mundane. There's
that's right.
holiness in our everyday lives, because he wants to fellowship with us
That's
and
right.
walk with us as we change diapers, as we chop up vegetables. If you're an
Totally.
accountant, as you crunch numbers, if you're,
Yeah,
I mean, whatever you're doing, he
that's right.
desires to be with us. I don't know how I got off on this tangent.
No,
I asked you
no.
how to make decisions, and here we are. No.
No, that's
Um,
it. That's it. I
Um,
agree.
okay, well, I have like a million things I want to ask you, but I do feel like that leads to one of the songs on your album is called Be Where You Are. And
Yeah.
the second I saw the title, I was like, oh, I know what this song's going to be about. And this is
Yeah.
going to be an anthem for me. Would you talk about that song, the meaning behind it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny, like, a lot of times, especially with this album in particular, I often will get a title before I get,
Mm,
any lyrics or music, and so, yeah, that title, "Be Where Your Feet Are," it was, like, this phrase that, kept coming back to me, and I think the very first person I heard say it was maybe from the stage. I heard, like, it's been probably 15 years ago. Amy Grant said it from the stage one time, and she was saying how when you come out to, in front of a group of people and you're about to sing a song, she was like, sometimes I just have to like literally settle myself in order
mm,
to like be where my feet are. And I was like, oh, I get that. Cause, I really did understand, like, as standing in front of a crowd of people and, like,
Yeah.
wanting to, like, be your authentic self, but also, just whoever whether it's just at the checkout line at the grocery store, it's like, just be where your feet are and, you know, have that settledness in your spirit. Like, how do we go about that? How do we do that? What is the invitation? And that's usually like anytime I'm writing a song, it's like, okay, Lord, what's the invitation
Mm,
here? And, so beautiful to be able, again, it plays into what we were just saying, to be able to trust God with all the outer rings, you
yeah.
know, of our lives, all the things we've got to get done or your career or whatever it is that, yes, we've, we have busy lives, but what does it look like to live in that bullseye? And then you become that person of peace, right? You
Uh,
take that with you everywhere you go so that when you are standing in your room or you're across the, table from someone at lunch or coffee, you really are able to be that person of peace or, as I've heard it said, like that non-anxious presence in
mhm.
a really noisy world. And I love to think it's like, I'd even said this in my book, it's like we become the quiet time. It's like that,
Mm,
our time when God, you bring that, you are that. You're in communion with him. And so then that
mm,
communion ends up spilling out wherever we are. And a lot of times, right, we're just at this pace that our culture, it's constantly, we're inundated with this unsustainable pace.
yep.
But the people of God, just to think like, wow, how cool that we get to be the hands and feet of Jesus
Mm,
in, whatever room we're in, or whether it's with our family at night, or, we're not rushing through bedtime. I remember that being a thing.
mm,
And just like be where your feet are. Like, here's where
uh,
you are right now. Like, what if you didn't rush just this moment right here? A mom told me the other day, like, I've just literally started not rushing even getting the kids' clothes laid out. And I let them go, what would you like to wear? And just not
oh gosh.
rushing those
Yeah.
moments that
Yeah.
we're so tempted every day to
I
rush
know.
through. But yeah, that really quick, that's that the second verse of that song. I remember asking my husband, I was like, okay, let's go. Like, what's the deeper invitation here?
Mm.
And he's like, well, it's that whole thing when we sit in tomorrow, but it's today. And I was like, "Wait, what?"
That line got me. So I was like, "Oh, I am a dreamer, and I am someone that has,
Yeah.
like, vision and goals and things." I'm like, "Oh, oh,
Yeah.
oh."
I was like, "Wait, what?" And he doesn't call himself a lyricist, but I was just, like, writing. He's like, "Yeah, when we sit in tomorrow," and I was like, and he's like, "And we call it today." And I said, "How will we look back on our yesterday?" Like, it is that, like, just being with your people and being
Be where your
present
feet are.
and trusting, God with tomorrow so that you're able to, like, live fully present and peaceful, like, with the moment we're given. So, yeah,
Yes. Oh my gosh, so many things. I read probably about a year ago, it was in, I think it's John Ortberg's spiritual disciplines book, but he talked about the bedtime, the bath, the bed, and, like, trying to rush through it, and exact same thing. He was like, "I realize that I'm trying to fast forward through these nights, but this is my life.
that's
Like,
right.
these are the moments. This is my life." And that
That's right.
radically changed 'cause, I mean, I'm
That's
sure
right.
there are people out there that that is a delightful time in their home, but it is not a delightful time in our home.
Totally.
But learning to make it that and
That's
try to
right.
figure out, okay, like, I have a it's probably started when she was 2. She just hated bath time and would cry. It wasn't about the water. I don't know, just
Yeah.
tired, I'm guessing, but
Mhm.
so many tears, so many tantrums. And at the same time, I was realizing that my kids weren't learning hymns from the church because they're in a different worship service than we're in, yada yada yada. That's fine. I'm not mad at our church for that. But I like,
Yeah.
this is my job. I've got to if I want my kids to know hymns. So I started singing hymns over her as we're doing her bath time. And lo and behold, bath time became peaceful. We no longer
So
had
sweet.
tears. And I was in a better spot
That's right.
emotionally and spiritually. And
Yeah, I love
anyway, I
that.
think I think there's a lot. I think we all have hard moments in our everyday, and then, of course,
Mhm.
we all have very difficult seasons of life at different
Yeah.
points, and it's really easy to just try to wanna escape,
Yeah.
um, and or pray, wish, hope that God would change our circumstances, and
Yeah.
sometimes God is ready and, going to change our circumstances, but I do think a lot of times I love that line. I'm gonna put it in my back pocket forever about what's the invitation here. I think a
Yeah.
lot of times he's inviting us into something, but
Yeah.
we have to be where our feet are, as you say,
Yeah.
in order to join in order to
That's
jump
right.
into the invitation. You said a while back, working for God
Yeah.
versus working with God. How do
Yeah.
you decipher that in your own life?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and and even more than like with God, I love to say like from him, like
Mm,
out from him. It's like when it says actually in the New Testament that we are from God, that original language there, it means like out from and to. So like
wow.
we are so you even think just as we're going out into the world today or we're parenting, whatever it is, we are from him, and then that sense of belonging and the fact that we are from him, it also is like we're almost an arrow. It's like we're being
Mm,
sent out into
yeah,
the world. So it's like out from and to. I love that sense of and yes, we are partnering also with him.
yeah,
Um but I think that difference for me was huge. It was like, and part of that was like, I could do all these things for God. I could sing for God
mhm,
all day long and go out and talk about him and share about, what he's taught me and who he is and but it's a whole other thing to know how to sit with him
mm,
and to be found in the moments where they are, whether it is the messy bath time or whatever it is, it's like that invitation sometimes can look even like a season of chaos or hardship even,
mm,
you know, and there's always a deeper invitation there to not just keep going in what we think that we should do for him, but an invitation to just be his
mm,
and come home to his heart, be found, uh just your worth, your identity, um, in him
mm,
and, that place of belonging. And it is that, so there's that deeper call because it's just none of the things we're going to do for him are going to be sustainable, number one, or even just, I would love to think like as fruitful unless we
mm,
are, truly learning to do those things out from him and
yeah,
then like with him. It's that,
yeah,
partnership with the spirit where it's, day to day, hour by hour, um, uh, learning to live from that place of complete rest in him that,
yeah,
and allowing him to show up for us rather than us always just exhausting ourselves showing up for
yeah,
ourselves.
yeah. It makes me think of, John 15, of
Yeah.
abiding in the
Totally.
vine and how,
Yes.
grapes grow and, produce vines produce incredible fruit, but they don't labor for their
Yeah.
for their
That's
fruit. They
right.
just stay attached to the vine, and
That's
we
right.
can back that analogy out, and we have the great vine dresser who is,
Yeah.
fertilizing and tilling the soil and
That's right.
lifting vines that have fallen to the ground and aren't getting oxygen. He's lifting
Yeah.
them up and he's tying them up high so they're getting the oxygen they need. And anyway, it's like, yeah, our lives are going to be the most fruitful from us just abiding,
That's right.
sitting in, remaining in. I'm trying to think of the other translations
Yeah.
for that word, but it's like
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
tethered to Jesus.
That's right.
And out of that comes fruit. That's so good.
Yeah.
You posted not too long ago on Instagram. Well, let's see. How do I want to help you get there? You talked about adventuring with God.
Uh,
And do you know what I'm talking about, your
um,
Instagram post? Or so
yes, maybe so.
it was a
Yes.
it was a photo of you and Nathan,
Yeah.
when you did Beheld, and then when you did, King Who Never Sleeps.
Yeah.
And you just kind of I'll let you kind of tell that part of it, but then you kind of just ended with, I'm wondering if some of you need to be reminded that you can
Mhm.
adventure with God. And so
Mhm.
I just wondered if you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that post was, us kind of or just saying like, here we go again and um And, I think that first album in the second album, I think it pertains to it just because obviously it just wouldn't even exist without that first one. But
Yeah.
that first one was very much, we left the bigger thing, and there was a season where it didn't make sense on paper,
Mm.
what God was calling us to. Uh, but we knew that God was calling us to it. And, there was a season where for 20 years, we got to serve passion conferences. We were, leading worship in arenas, and um, it was a beautiful season. And there's a time and a season to be under something, right? And to just
Mhm.
serve and to have a visionary where you're like, yes, we're all going in the same direction. Let's do this. But then I really do believe that it's like almost like how I've had this beautiful epiphany of like that when you become a true son and a daughter,
Mm.
meaning you're really living from that place of sonship and daughtership, what we just talked about, John 15, but also just that belonging to God. Sons and daughters become mothers and fathers
Mm.
spiritually, And I also think that same thing. It's like those who have spent a season, there's a time to be under, and then there's a time to like be over. There's a time to like
Wow.
um lead in a place of leading others. And hopefully what you've learned from, serving under something, you're being a great steward when you're over something. And so
Mm.
it was like that was the season where the Lord was just like calling us to adventure with him, to venture
Yeah.
out into some waters that we were like, okay, Lord, seriously, if you don't show up, we're sunk, And I think
Yeah.
in that post I said, but then you realize like, oh, he's the boat and the water.
Yep.
He's all of it. And
Yep.
so it's just, where else would we go? Like
Right.
he has the words of life. And it's like, okay, God, no matter how crazy this baby looks on paper, like we trust you and you have shown up. And
Mm.
so I think that post was like, we believe, God, we believe you'll show up again.
Yeah.
And we're trusting you even when it doesn't look like, you might show up, but we're going to
Mhm.
trust you and get in the boat and
Yes.
set sail.
Yes.
So yeah.
No, I just love that. It really it spoke to me in the way at the beginning of this year as my husband and I were kind of, looking over the coming year and talking about
Yeah.
our hopes and prayers for it and whatever. One of the things I said was, I want this to be a year of risk. And I
Yeah.
said, but spiritual risk with the Lord. But like,
Yeah.
I want to, if I sense God leading me towards something, I want to say how fast you want me to run. Or if
Yeah.
and more often than not, God hasn't asked me to change my job or to move cities or anything like that this year. And that's
Yeah.
not what I thought would happen. It's more the gentle nudges of like, hey, you need to call that person and tell them
Yeah. Yeah. It's good.
what's on your heart. Or,
Yeah.
hey, that woman needs prayer over there. Or,
Yeah.
and to just be like, okay, I think because I sort of made it an intention of the year, it's like, I don't even really hesitate anymore. I think sometimes
Yeah.
we feel like God's leading us or putting a prompting on our hearts, and we're like, I don't know. I'm going to wait for you to confirm that 18 more times. I'm willing
Totally.
to
Yes.
venture into that. And it's like, nope, I said I wanted to take risks. And
Yeah.
sometimes that means, maybe it is my internal dialogue and I mistook it for the Lord, and you know what? God will correct me.
Yeah,
No, I have
totally.
no doubt when I start, going someplace that he doesn't want me, he's gonna zip me right back up. Okay,
Yeah.
to change the channel, I do want to talk about um why the beginning. I kind of want you to go back to Be Held, and then we'll talk about why this second album. But
Mhm.
you're a phenomenal worship leader and songwriter, and obviously you're writing, anthems for the body of Christ to be singing. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, how did we get to lullabies? How did we get to this amazing gift that you've given us?
Aw. Well, it's so interesting, like, the Lord just even recently kinda gave me words for the past, like, 10 years
Mm.
of songwriting because it really does feel like, we or at least I went from, uh, writing, like, corporate songs
Mhm.
to writing cave songs.
Mm.
Um, and they're both biblical. If you think of the Psalms,
Yeah.
David's writing in the caves, when he's just trusting the Lord while Saul is like literally hunting him down. And then we have the corporate songs that are just as biblical and just as needed. And I think that that's like what I've seen the Lord do. Now, I will say this, there's like not really a market for cave songs. So if you want to make a living
Don't
writing,
write cave sounds.
write corporate songs, I'm just being honest. But
Uh,
um, but that's just been a sweet process. Like, yeah, I
mhm.
could cry about that, but I know there's a place for him. And it's one of those things where it's like, I know that God takes them into thousands of hidden places that I will never know about this side
Mm,
of heaven. And I just trust that they are from him. I trust that just from the little stories that we have heard, which are a lot of stories, but um, it's that we just trust that like this was this album, the beginnings, like Beheld, it was just it was almost like a download that I got from him, and I always said, like, "I would love to do a lullaby album someday," but I think in my mind, it was just like, yeah, sweet songs for kids for going to bed, but it was like, oh, the Lord was like, "No, this is so much deeper. I want to
mm,
comfort my people with these songs. I wanna use your gift in a different way." And I think it's so much like been this beautiful shared listening experience for families, and I
mhm.
think we need more of that. I think it's hard to find that balance where it's, not too kiddish or,
Yeah.
like because I think kids can actually handle more than we think
They
they can,
they
and then
absolutely can.
the parents get to, like, "I can't listen to that anymore." So it's just
Yeah.
but I also think there's a simplicity in, like, "Come like a child."
Mm,
So when your parents are listening to something that is also like their kids are hearing it, is there's just this beautiful, mix that, like, only God could have thought of, and it's been so beautiful to just hear
mm,
the stories, and I think Beheld, that really came out of just there were really actually a lot of songs that the Lord was giving me in the rocking chair,
mm,
in that season of learning to rest, learning to be his kid again fully, while I was also learning to like see these children for more than just this like little person that needs me 24/7, but it's just like, like God give me eyes to see who they are.
yeah.
And the songs were coming out of that. And so when we did do that record, how many ever years later, we actually just kind of went back and was like, okay, what are these little songs that I was singing to the kids at that time? I was just
Mm.
kind of making up some stuff. And that's where that album came from. And then I don't know why we waited 7 years. Do we just had some other there's some
Other
other
things going
albums.
on.
There's some other albums in between there, but just yeah, we just there were so many stories and we just felt like, this is like a lane that I just love. And
Mm,
for whatever reason, more joy have come out of these two
wow.
albums for Nathan and I, even together.
Mm,
He's produces these with me and it's just more than any records we have ever made in 25 years. These 2 albums have brought us personally the most joy and, like, have been a healing balm to our own
wow.
souls as we've been writing them, and so there's something to that,
Yeah.
and so it's been just a beautiful joy for us to, yeah,
Mm.
make these albums, so
So, as you envision these families playing King Who Never Sleeps in their homes, or as they're winding down for bedtime, or as they're
Mhm.
we've listened in all those situations, also in the car a lot when like emotions are high, we just
Yes.
put it on. What do you want parents like? What's the message you want them to be hearing or internalizing
Yeah.
from those songs?
Yeah. Well, we've been so intentional. Even the fact that if you listen, almost every song Nathan is singing an octave, meaning those of
Oh,
musical people, just that means he's singing the same note as me, except just in his range, down an octave. And we did that as to represent the Father, literally like
mm,
mothers and fathers singing. And we wanted the fathers to have just as much of a place sonically in the sound of the song so that we hope this resources the family. That is our number one goal. It's like resource families with with music that like you just said, you can put on in the car if everyone just needs to calm down. You can kind of, we love to say, like, put the house to bed at night, where you just kind of, even a couple of hours before bedtime, turn it on, turn the lights down low. You kind of start like getting everyone in that,
Yeah.
get bedtime in view, with your eyes and ears and everything. So just, we hope that these songs calm, but we
Mm.
also have been saying, especially with this album, that they bring peace and praise.
Mm.
Um, and that praise would be stirred out of that peace. That it would get you singing, literally, whether that's you
Mhm.
just laying there at night listening by yourself and you're singing truth, or if that is like, let's all as a family just, let's turn this on as we, bed everybody down, and let's sing it together. And we hope there's a couple of those songs on this album that they maybe just one that a family picks and they're like, this is
This is our song.
the
Yeah.
nighttime praise.
Yeah.
There's a song on there called TikTok that, our
Uh-huh.
mutual friend Emily, her girls sang on that
Uh-huh.
with us. But that was just one that we just thought, how sweet, just almost like we put it kind of high up. It just, we're still like suckers just to think that like everybody still listens to an album in its entirety.
I mean, I
Um,
do.
so we put that kind of high up in the set list of the album as kind of that winding down song of just
Yeah.
like, let's think about the day. Let's think about how our days were made for praise.
Mhm.
What's happened today? What can we like praise him for? And just have
Yes.
that little praise moment. So yeah, those are some things that
I
come
love
to
that.
mind when we just want to resource the family. So yeah.
It makes me think of On Beheld. Oh my goodness, what's that song title? Is it Close Your Eyes? But it's
Yeah.
like kind of same thing, like wrapping it. You're kind of like singing over your child, like we're wrapping up the day and it's time to
Yes.
close our eyes. And anyway, it's
Mhm.
similar, similar
Yes.
vibes for me.
Yes,
Anyway,
it
it's so, so
is.
sweet. If you travel back in time to yourself when you were in the thick of parenting littles,
Yeah.
besides giving yourself a giant hug
Yeah,
and
exactly.
maybe a cup of coffee or whatever your treat of
Yeah.
choice is,
Yeah.
what would you say to yourself?
Yeah. Okay, I'll try not to cry, but, like, um, I would just say, like, even when it doesn't make sense, and even when the world tells you something different, um, just keep choosing, the Lord, and keep choosing your family. Keep an open heart to God, always, always, even through difficult times, and keep choosing your family. And this is what I would say, is because you're gonna see the fruit.
Wow.
You will see the fruit. And that's what's so fun as being a mom who's almost an empty nester, to be able to like look at young mamas and say, like, all these hard decisions, the sacrifices that you've made, you will see the
Wow.
fruit. And it's
Wow.
really beautiful. And
Wow.
I just think back on just really hard decisions that we made, in choosing our family over our career, and trusting God with it all. Not only did God show up, but we just are still in relationship with our kids. We actually really like our kids. They're humans that um, they're who we want to be around the table with most. And
Yeah.
so you will see the fruit. And so just keep going, keep
Mm.
doing the beautiful, holy work. And you're going to have these moments, like, just even in hardship, you'll still have the moments where you're just like, wow, like, thank you,
Mm.
Lord, that I didn't miss it. And thank you that I'm able to see the fruit of some of those things. It's just
Mm.
beautiful. Yeah.
How would you describe, I'm thinking about someone listening right now that's like, yes, like I want to keep my heart open to the Lord and I'm going
Hmm.
to say yes to my family over other things. Um, what does it practically look like to keep your heart open to the Lord? Like,
Yeah.
what would you say to that?
Yeah. Well, I usually, in my own walk with God, when I am just sitting with Him, one of the things that just through the years I've just sort of developed, like, sort of these two things really, that I think, God is such a God of order, that I believe when we walk with Him in His order, it opens up other things in our lives. And
Yeah.
so it's just a process, I think, of trust and obedience. But um, one of the things, if I have 10 minutes with the Lord, um, I start with confession, and I know
Mhm.
we don't really talk about confession enough, probably. And I know everyone kind of has different, views on that, but I like to think of it in a relationship. I mean, it's just like a marriage. I mean, if you hurt each other's feelings, or if you do something that is, hurtful or not trusting, or you're gonna be in better fellowship if you ask for forgiveness. And
Mhm.
so that's why I love to I love to view confession with the Lord. And it's because I do believe that confession, it's not it's not shameful, because there is no condemnation for
That's
those who
right.
are in Christ Jesus. So he's already just he's going to be just to forgive. And so we know and can trust that he's already forgiven, and we get to. But imagine sort of, I think John Eldredge says, I love how he says, it's like it repairs the wiring. I love
Mm.
it. It just replenishes, and you kind of like works that connection with God
Yeah.
in such a way that we're we're walking in step with the Spirit again. And so
Yeah.
confession, and I love that there's two parts of confession. One is, the first one's just like any sin, and I in my own life, I'm like, okay, God, where am I not trusting and obeying you? And so it's just anything that the Spirit of God will bring to mind, like, how am I not trusting or obeying God? Like, show me any place in my life where there's sin.
Mm.
And I'll just say, I'm sorry, Lord. I just lay that before you. Please forgive me. I thank you that you've forgiven me today, that
Mm.
I didn't trust you in that area. And God, I want to trust you. And then that second part of confession is confessing what's true. And that's where the word of God comes in. So even if you only have 10 minutes, like I said, get in the Psalms, say it out loud. Take one verse that you can take with you for your day and just say it out loud. Confess what's true over your
Yeah.
heart, over your
Yeah.
life, over others, over your kids, over your husband. And then I love the word consecration. I know it's a big word, but really that's just surrender. It's Romans
Mm.
12. It's like, it's our spiritual act of worship to just surrender our whole being to God. And I believe those two things, confession and consecration is, I'm set apart for God.
Yeah.
That has that has everything to do with holiness, right? But Jesus is our righteousness. Again, it's nothing that we've done. It's all everything
Mm.
Christ has done. And so it's living in that place of, I'm set apart for you. I don't belong to you. I mean, to me,
Mm.
God, I belong to
Uh-huh.
you. So it's that, like, I'm yours, Lord. And there is just so much that God can do with a heart that is surrendered like that.
Mm.
And surrender, I found, just doesn't expire. Even when you get in your 50s, like, we're always going to be asked to
Yeah.
surrender. And it's not fun. In fact, I think surrender was originally going to be in the title of my book, and my editor was like,
No
no
one will
one's
buy
going to
that.
buy that.
Totally.
Nobody wants to surrender. But I do believe those two practices, again, if you only have 10 minutes,
I love that.
getting with the Lord,
It's so good.
the two parts of confession, consecration, and I believe it leads to communion with God, that you
Yes.
can take, like we talked about earlier, we take that into then every conversation and interaction that we're going to have
Yes.
the rest of our day. Yeah. So those are a couple of things that have just
I
always helped me. My
I love that.
go-tos.
Confession and concentration.
Concentration.
I I'll never be able to say it again.
Con-
Consecration.
consecration. It's a big one.
Um, I am also gonna put those in my back pocket, and I will quote you every time I use it. I have a book coming out in February, so it's still
Oh,
so far away. Um,
wonderful.
but it is about the practice of small spiritual habits in your normal everyday life. And so,
Yes.
and like I specifically look at, several key spiritual disciplines and how we can do those
It's
just in
good.
little ways throughout our day. But
Yeah.
I love that 10 minutes,
Yeah.
confession, consecration, got it that time.
Yeah.
Um, yes, because it
And I
helps
do it
us
just,
have
yeah,
fellowship.
it just keeps your heart open to God. And
Yes.
it's vital,
Yes.
especially through hardship. I mean, because that's the thing. It's like, are we, and that's what the enemy's after. He wants to use hardship in order
Yep.
to close our heart towards
Yep.
God. So whatever it is you're going through, I just always say open heart to God is that's
Open heart to God.
number one,
That's so
vital.
good.
Like just stay in that place of surrender with him and
Yeah.
openness to him. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, really the core of this podcast, no matter what, is,
Yeah.
will you commit, will you be determined to be who God created you to be, to walk
Mhm.
with him faithfully, to obey him, to trust him,
Yeah.
no matter what? And
That's
so
right.
just what you're saying, it's like the hardships, it
Yeah.
is when the rubber hits the road and we have the
Mhm.
opportunity to let the world, Satan, whoever tell us who God is or
Right.
who we are,
Yeah.
um, or we can stay steadfast and faithful.
Yeah.
So it's hard
It
sometimes,
is
but
hard.
to go back to earlier parts of our conversation, there will be fruit. It will be worth it,
That's right.
even in the hardship. Okay, last question. I have so abused your time. I am
No,
so sorry.
I'm so
You're gonna
happy.
be like, "Never let Hannah Seymour on my calendar again."
I'm so happy.
My last question is, I would just love to hear from you. What is the Lord teaching you right now that's either stretching you or surprising you or um, to your point, it's like even in your I remember the moment I realized, oh, you never arrive. like
Yeah,
like you never arrive in your not only like in earthly things like your career or whatever, but it's like no, spiritually, the Lord always has something for you in every season. So I'd love to hear from you in your season of life right now.
yeah. I mean, it's probably right along those lines. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that we honestly have just gone through, maybe I think July has been maybe in 30 years the hardest month that we have ever lived.
Oh wow, Christy.
And just a lot of things that I just can't publicly share.
Sure.
But I mean, we're okay, but just a lot of things, yeah, kind of came together at once that just so many hard things. And then on top of that, this is just feels frivolous, compared to the things we're actually, dealing with. But like, I even lost my beloved dachshund, my little dog that I have loved for 11 years. I mean, just it was one of those things where it was like all this hard stuff was happening, and then I was like, and then
You're like,
also that,
yes,
like,
but Lord, the dog?
I mean,
How? Why?
and it's just like because it's just
Mm,
I guess one of those earthly things that you do have that you feel like brings you joy, and
yeah.
you're just like really that too, and I think yeah, it's and I really have sense that we have gone through this
Mm,
before, but this that there's sometimes we are going to be sifted. I mean, truly, like
yeah.
there,
Yeah.
especially there's no joke when it comes to like the cost actually of like
Mm,
just proclaiming truth and declaring truth out in the open.
yeah. Yeah.
There's just there's a there's a cost to that,
Yeah.
and um, the enemy, he
Yeah.
comes to steal and kill and destroy, and that's his number one job.
Mm,
And so I think what we're learning in this season, I said it a while ago, really, it's just like, oh, y- the need and the really honestly the hope of surrender, it doesn't expire. It's not
mm,
something that you just reach this point where you're just like, well, I've lived and I've walked with God long enough where I've finally surrendered, I've surrendered it all. And it's just like, no, there's just always something else to like lay down before Him.
yeah.
And, in this season, there was this, I don't know if you're maybe too young to remember Rich Mullins songs, but there's this song,
Mhm.
he would sing this song, "Oh God, you are my God, and I will ever praise you."
Yes.
There was just a morning a couple of weeks ago that, um, I think it's just making that choice in the
Mm,
morning or whenever it is. I think about Hebrews 4, it's sort of as long as it's called today, the Lord set aside a certain day and it's today.
Yeah.
And he says, do not harden your hearts.
Yeah.
And so I just was like, okay, thinking about Job even being sifted, it's like, you know, I just choose right now to say, oh God, you are my God, and I
Mm,
will ever praise you in the
mm,
midst of things that I don't understand.
yeah.
Um, why you would allow this
Mm,
to happen to us or people that we really love. Um, I don't understand it, God, but God, you are my God, and I will ever praise you.
wow.
And just choosing to
Mm,
praise.
yeah.
I think about also Psalm 118:24. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And that was my mom's life verse. And she
Mm,
quoted it to me the day that she found out she for sure had cancer. And, that verse seems kind of sweet, like it's going to just be on a coffee cup mug,
yeah, it's on a pillow. Yeah.
Yeah, until it, like, is a day that includes a cancer diagnosis,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yet she chose, like, to say, I mean, just didn't even, like, stop, she just kept going and said, "But today I was reading in Psalm 118:24, my favorite verse. This is the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it, and I will
Amen.
trust him." And so, even in the hardship, I guess that's just what we're learning, is to just, like, not just say it with our hearts, but say it with our mouths,
Mm,
and keep confessing it out loud, even when we don't understand it, no
yeah.
matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and confessing with your mouth, I mean, then that's a testimony for others. And
That's
I mean,
right.
absolutely for your children, but
Yeah.
anyone around you, it's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I remember, I'm going through a hard time now, but oh yeah, I remember when the
Yeah.
Nockels were, going through their season and
Yeah.
they still
Totally.
proclaim their trust in the Lord. Something I've learned from my dad who has had chronic back pain since I was in high school. So I mean, we're
Wow.
talking, I mean, I'm 41, so however long I
Yeah.
don't know however long that is since I was
Yeah.
16, and has had multiple surgeries. He has told me so many times, I stopped pretty early on asking God why,
Yeah.
and I started just asking the Lord, how?
Wow.
How do you want me to
Yeah.
walk forward in this day? And
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that like ties right back to your what's the invitation here?
Yeah.
Like
It's good.
instead of like, why this hardship, God? Why this trial? Why are you letting this happen to me? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I may never, ever
That's
get to know why. Maybe in eternity. I don't know. Maybe
that's
not.
right. Right.
But I can ask you how or what's the
Yeah.
invitation that you're,
That's right.
calling me into.
It's good.
So good.
Yeah.
Christy, thank you so, so
Thank you,
much for
Hannah.
being on No Matter What, but more importantly, just for being you, for being the woman that God created you to be in all of the dozens of facets of ways that you express that. But your public labors, the way that just your ministry that you have, I know a lot of sweat, blood, and tears has gone into
Yeah.
songwriting and producing and touring and all that comes with that for you to give songs to the church, to be singing to the Lord, to be singing over their families. I'm grateful for you. I'm inspired by you to, be who God created me to be in my
Oh,
own space and giftings. And anyway,
thank
just thank you.
you.
Grateful for you.
Oh, thank you, Hannah. I loved it.
Okay, if that conversation did not put wind in your sails, I don't know what to tell you. That conversation did so much good for my heart, and I hope it did for yours too. Guys, I am so excited to be sharing these conversations with you. I have recorded probably a dozen before I started even releasing these episodes. So there's so much goodness that lies ahead. I can't wait for you to hear it. If you will do me a massive favor, you know what the request is going to be. I need you to subscribe. I need you to like. I need you to leave a review. I need you to share it with people. But I would just love for this conversation with Christy and so many other conversations that we're going to have in No Matter What. I would love for it to encourage and equip other men and women to be who God created them to be, no matter what is going on around them or going on in their lives. So if you do me a favor, do all the things, share it with your people. I'll see you guys next week.